Welcome to The Woolly Way, a podcast specifically for dairy shepherds. That is, folks wanting to raise sheep for the purpose of harvesting milk. I am your host, Rachel Hess.
And I'm Liv Fox. We cover all things pertaining to raising dairy sheep here, be it animal nutrition, housing, healthcare, lambing tips, cheese making, and even some butchery and fiber art.
After all, if you raise dairy sheep, you are going to have wool, and if your operation is successful, you'll eventually have surplus lambs to decide what to do with.
Ethical animal husbandry is the focus here, as well as sustainable agriculture. We want to provide you with the information you need to start and continue your dairy sheep operation in the best way possible for you, your sheep, and the amazing world we live in.
So grab a nice cup of sheep milk and let's dive in.
Welcome back to The Woolly Way. Today we have Samantha Bowl, and her ranch name, I should say rather, is Pasque Hills Ranch, located in South Dakota. Samantha, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast.
Too bad.
So let's just jump right in. Can you tell our viewers / listeners about your sheep operation, where you're located? You don't have to say like exactly where you're located, like how many acres your operation is, what kind of breeds you run, and how long you've been working with sheep.
So I'm located outside of Eureka, South Dakota, which is a tiny town. So it's north central South Dakota for people that are unfamiliar. Our ranch is pretty much mixed livestock, so we have cattle, sheep, horses, chickens, children, dogs, cats, you name it. We have about 330 head of purebred and commercial ewes. So there's, we have a mix of wool, and then we got the 13 head of dairy sheep, and then there's another 10 head of just the American dairy, as I like to call them, the ones that are in the States. And so I guess that's what we have for sheep. I started back before I was married in 2012, I think, and I'd bought 40 head from sale barn. So that's kind of how my venture started before my barn was ready. Bought some ewes. So started lambing on the trailer, I think, and so it's kind of been full speed ahead since I started.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's been fun, I guess. Love the sheep. I kind of got ventured out of the cows. I used to have more to do with cows, but sheep with children are just a lot easier to manage and for myself to manage, so kind of works. But yeah, I suppose we probably run the sheep on, between, I suppose, 800 acres in different spots, and then we have the ranch consists about like 2,200 acres total between the cattle and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty decent sized. We're not flat, so we have some nice hills. So like now, I don't know about you guys, but all our snow's gone and it's kind of a mud mess. So thankful we have hills to put stuff on. So that's nice.
So what kind of fencing do you guys run? Because you have large acres.
Yeah.
To cover. Is it all like permanent fencing, or do you still run some electric netting to move them around, or how does that work?
It's been a work in progress. Most of this stuff has to be there's some ewes that respect barb, but there's some that don't. So most of it is we're getting to the point where it's woven.
Okay.
And then that's the permanent, and so then we'll rotate with the electric netting.
Okay. And
I've tried to get used to respect 2-wire hot wire, but some are obviously not as keen on that, so we try to find the naughty ones and keep them in a different spot so they don't teach the rest.
Yes.
Yeah, and we do a lot of rotational grazing. It seems like it really works for us, and then we use that practice with our cattle too, so that it's really nice. It's really cut down on worms and parasites. Because I haven't wormed my ewe flock as a ewe flock since 2021.
Okay.
Just do checking of FAMACHAs that way, and it has really proven to be effective that way. And even if we do have a wet spring and we just kind of monitor stuff, or dry, and we don't usually have an issue. I think it's just really helped over the years evolve the animals into more efficient, more resistant, or more capable to handle the stress
some
of the
intestinal
worm.
parasites.
Yeah. We did. I have noticed that the The ewes, though, the young ones, 2-year-olds, once they break teeth, those are going to be your most susceptible animals to have worms.
Okay.
And so those are the ones that we watch, like the coming 2-year-olds, especially if they lamb. We do lamb on pasture sometimes, so yes, we have to watch those ones.
Okay. So with rotationally grazing and having that many acres to cover, do you graze that area more than once in a grazing season, or is it enough where they only typically hit an area once?
We'll have to, sometimes if it gets dry, they have to come back. So, but we try to not do it as much, now that we're getting more of the acres that we want fenced that way. Eventually I'd like to, leave them out and then just rotational that spot and then kick them out and then not use it. Or if we do use it, it'll be a winter graze, or like not touch it all summer or spring and then kick them out for winter and let them utilize as much as we can and not have to bale feed or then feed on it. So once we hit early on. So
Okay.
try to work that way around, I guess.
Okay. For your guys' winters, like how much snow covered, like are you able to like stockpile any grazing ground, or do you get enough snow where they're not able to really paw it up?
It's a hit and miss.
Okay.
The last few years it's been pretty mild winters, I would call it.
Okay.
And then a couple of years ago it was pretty mild, but then we had a rainstorm. And so I had ewes with like 2 inches of icicles hanging off of them. And I mean, everything was covered. I mean, we had power out. It was bad. So it just depends. And, you hope for the best. You can graze some stuff, but that's not always possible. But we do put up hay and have to buy hay and all the fun stuff that go with that. So,
yeah.
So
with your different flocks, and I don't know if you run your commercial ewes with your dairy ewes or not, but like what do you do with each of them?
So the commercial ones and the registered. So the registered consists of horn Dorsets, and we really got into those a few years ago, trying to find some ones that work, I guess. Our system isn't like everybody else. We don't feed grain as a rule, so we don't grain them throughout lactation either or through gestation. So, starting point, we bought from random people when we first started getting ewes, once I bought the sale barn stuff. And then in 2018, I had bought some ewes from a few different people, and I, had lambed them out. They had triplets and the bags were beautiful, and I thought, wow, we're gonna, this is gonna be great. We're gonna have all these lambs. And watching the lambs, all of a sudden I'd find one dead in the jug, and I'm like, oh crap, like, the lambs are just fine. Well, it turns out they all had hard bag, and then we had bought really good registered Suffolks from Montana, and ended up bringing some of that, whatever they had, strain OPP in, and they had arthritis, and they were poor doers, and they got skinny, and then they're coughing, and so we had the whole shebang. So in that fall, we decided to depopulate. So we sold, I think we had 350 to 400 at that time. Sold everything and sourced from clean tested, well, I don't know if they're tested, but they were clean flocks. So and they never brought anything in, so they were OPP free, as you would call it, or negative, as I like to say. So that's how we sourced from them, which most animals are crossbred. So they're like a Finn, Dorset, and Suffolk cross, majority of them. So from there, we just, our idea is to try to maintain a parent flock, if you will. So you have a line of ewes that's very consistent. So if you ever want to crossbreed, you know what they're going to produce. You know
what to expect.
Yeah. So some of our ewes are pretty line bred, and so are our cattle. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So we know the consistency. We know what they're going to throw. We know, where their flaws are, what their flaws are, if they have flaws.
Yep.
And so we wanted to try these Dorsets. So I finally found somebody who was willing to test, and so we tested them. She had clean stuff. She was a veterinarian herself, so that helped. So we got those horn Dorsets, and I did venture to Canada and imported a few from Canada to get some different bloodlines. So
Okay.
now we have a decent flock of horn Dorsets that are very maternal and can raise lambs without grain.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? We got, that took a lot of years of selecting. I mean, we didn't. It
That didn't
didn't
happen
happen
overnight.
overnight, and it was very expensive because, and to this day, now I test vigorously with the OPP. I just randomly test, and I sell, or the ones that we sell, we test. And
Yeah.
also, I've implemented adding yonis into the big flock. So
Mm-hmm.
everything that I've had has always tested negative
Okay.
for
So
both of
even your
those.
commercial
Yeah.
you flock,
Yep.
you still test them for
Yes.
yonis too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard really bad stories of people
Mm-hmm.
when they get it and it just destroys their whole flock, because you can never get rid of it. There's
Right.
the bovine strain and there's the ovine strain, and
Mm-hmm.
ovine is so hard to clear for some
Yeah.
reason. And I just don't want it. And it's
No,
just
no, you're
easier
not.
not to have it and to test for it and make sure you don't instead of
Yes.
bringing it in. And I just feel like those, it's an expensive test. It gets expensive, but
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it for us, I guess, in my
Well,
eyes.
yeah, for the long term and longevity of your flock.
Right.
I feel like and maybe it's because I'm mostly involved in the dairy sheep side of things, but I feel like it's becoming more common. Like people are more willing to test
Mm-hmm.
for OPP and yonis. And I don't know if it's because they have witnessed what it does to a sheep and because it's so hard to get rid of. Like it's not a fun thing to watch. So I've had friends that have had yonis and they cold hard and they're going to keep testing, but it's like, man, that's tough because like
Mm-hmm.
you can't really get rid of it.
And even with those OPP positive ones, they were too, and were testing positive and showed major signs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I've talked to a lot of veterinarians in the diagnostic labs when we were trying to figure out what was going on, and they're just like, it's just, there's many strains, and obviously you got a combination of a lot of bad ones.
Okay.
So, and it's just a scary deal. I don't ever want to go through that again, and so that's why we started and making sure everything was clean. But, so we got those horn Dorsets, and then
Mm-hmm.
we did find some polled ones. So hopefully that'll be this year's little project of some polled, because we got some from Canada that were polled too. So
Okay.
what else do we got out there? We got the Finn Dorsets that we originated with. So a lot of those girls are pretty old. So
Okay.
good, they're really good genetics. And this year, on remind you, or just reminding everybody that we don't use grain. So
Mm-hmm.
we've had 5 ewes have quads, and I've weighed them,
Wow.
and they've all weighed 7.4, 7.5, 7.2, and one was 7.4.
Okay.
And everybody was consistent. So when people say, well, you can't do that, well, you can. I just think there's a big overhead of universities wanting you to think that you have to feed grain or have really good, and this year our hay wasn't very good.
Okay.
But, it's just,
Mm-hmm. What are your
I don't know.
pastures like?
Native, I don't know.
Okay.
It's got, some brome, some Kentucky bluegrass, just there's crested wheatgrass. It's hit and miss in different spots too.
Okay.
So
So you guys haven't focused efforts on reseeding pastures or anything like that. You're feeding
we
native.
did.
Oh,
We
okay.
we did so this was my grandparents' place, but there's a lot of crop ground and overabused crop ground. And so we did do a lot of range pasture planting back into native grasses. And so
Okay. Okay.
that's how we turned a lot of stuff. So we don't really have a crop ground per se. We got a
Mm-hmm.
couple fields we plant cover crops, and then
Okay.
that's kind of what our forage stuff is. And the couple of them aren't fenced in for sheep, so not yet do I get to use it and utilize it, but
Mm-hmm.
someday I'll get to utilize it. So that's kind of my next big thing, of hopefully running them on cover crop and rotating them in with the cattle or something. So, but yeah, they look really nice in you get a nice flush off that grass. I really, that's the only way we flush too. We don't flush for breeding or anything like that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, and they do fairly well.
Okay. Well, that's awesome to hear. Your dairies, even your what you call your American dairies, those do well on it too.
Yeah, yeah. I've had a few, and some of them have come from Deb, so they're high percent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And last year I don't know how many years I've had them, 3 years now, 4 years. Anyways, they've done really well. They've milked over 3/4 of a gallon for the one consistently, and then and I just let them run out my yard because I don't want to have to walk forever to find them.
You don't want to go for miles to find where they're
No, they're
at.
pretty tame to come home, but it's just I got plenty of grass in my yard too that they can mow, and since they're so tame, I don't have to worry about the kids or anything. You just got to make sure the kids shut the gate so they can't go on the highway.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they've held really good condition. I mean, I do give so like to make sure that they keep producing. I do feed my dairy sheep grain, to a point. I give them oats, and I like to use extruded soybeans. They do really well on them too.
Okay.
They've
And
done
that
really
probably
good.
helps them stand for you to milk as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everybody's willing, though. They all are excited to get in there. Yeah. I suppose it doesn't help that they're always offered grain either, It's more of a treat. So
Yeah.
it just seems like, yeah, I don't have an issue with that, I guess.
Do you hand milk or do you machine milk?
So I used to hand milk. I was milking 4 of them a day by hand. And then let's see here. Yeah, last year I had our 6th child. And when I was pregnant with her, my husband said, I am not milking sheep's teats because they're too small. A goat, fine. I cannot do the sheep. So I ended up getting a milk machine because of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Or else I probably would have. So I don't know. I
What'd you end up
enjoyed that.
going with?
I got a simple pulse.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I have. So I'm
Okay.
always like Team Simple Pulse.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it works. It's a nice little machine, and
Mm-hmm.
my kids can run it, so that's nice.
Okay.
Want to know more about dairy sheep? Did you know that I write books on the topic? There is my big book, which is published by Sawdust Publishing and is available on my website or Amazon and sawdustpublishing.com. In this volume, The Guide to Homestead Dairy Sheep, you will find everything I wished I knew when I first started raising dairy sheep. I feature other dairy shepherds and go into detail on topics like different breeds for milking, parasite management, milk sharing with lambs, how to set your flock up for the best lambing and therefore milking season possible, and I briefly discuss digestion and nutrition of sheep. Since writing this book, folks have asked me questions about more nuanced topics, so I have begun writing ebooks that are topic specific that you can purchase on my website and receive as an instant download and print at your convenience. Currently we have Bringing Your New Sheep Home, which explains in detail our step-by-step method of introducing new dairy sheep onto your homestead and getting them used to you as their shepherd. Since there are currently no dairy-specific hair breed sheep available, dairy shepherds will have to shear their sheep annually and then decide what to do with their wool. Wool has a lot of misconceptions surrounding it, and I want to help shepherds understand that it is a commodity and not a burden. So I wrote my other ebook, 5 Uses of Wool on the Homestead, which is designed to give you practical ideas on how to utilize this amazing product around your homestead the second you shear it off your sheep. The ebooks are only available on my website at whoopsiedaisyfarm.com.
Yeah.
What is the age range then of your kids? You've mentioned your kids help out on the ranch and everything.
Yeah, so I got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, an almost 7-year-old, 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then she's going to be a year and a month. So
Okay. All right.
yeah, they're
You
all
are a busy lady.
Yeah, they've helped a lot. The
Mhm.
oldest helps with everything, and there's a lot of pictures where I have where the kids are all in the barn, either in lick tubs or just there's. I remember having my 2-year-old down there. Well, he was probably 18 months at the time, but he wanted to be held, and I have a picture of it, and it was just the funniest thing because he had to wear my daughter's snowsuit because it was wintertime, but
Mhm.
he wanted to be held, so I put him on the little harness that you carry around, to carry the kids. But I hung it on the sheep gate because I couldn't carry him
Oh,
around anymore. But he couldn't watch me. But he was just sitting there hanging. And I'm like, well, you're happy. But it's so funny because he's in pink and makes a cute little girl, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
Happy
always
and
down
safe.
there.
That's all that matters, right?
Right, right, yep. Yeah, they are very well rounded in the sheep and everything else that we do, I guess, for that matter. They don't really have a choice.
Do your ones that are old enough for 4-H, do they like show sheep at all in your county fairs or anything?
We're not in the 4-H thing, but
Okay.
we did start showing not sheep. We started showing the dairy goats that we got. We got a few
Oh,
mutant
okay.
ones, so we started with that. But I'd really, and you know, the whole disease biosecure thing is just one of the. We try to be super careful and retest everything 100 different times, and actually put tarps up when we do take them, and ask that nobody touch them, and you know, we ask for pens far enough away. But I'd really like to try to take a dairy sheep
Uh-huh.
one year and just try to get it out there a little more
Yes.
and see what we can accomplish with that, and just kind of get information, and you know and plus the dairy people, even goats, they're so much more informed about disease. So
Yes.
it's a dairy animal, it should be in the dairy side, so my risk versus the show sheep will be a lot less risky.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
So that's kind of our hopes for maybe this fall. And I know the kids are excited to show stuff. So we'll see if I can get a sheep willing to go and somebody interested enough to want to have one at the fair.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Our local fair isn't, I mean, it's pretty big for the state. But
Okay.
it's not, I don't know what you want to say, but it's just not not a lot of animals, I guess. So there's a lot of chickens.
Okay.
But it's just not as big as it used to be. So
I think a lot of fairs in general are having that. So,
Yeah.
well, I hope it goes well for them.
yeah,
I hope they like it. They can be
We got-
ambassadors for dairy sheep.
we got a few months to practice and prep, and you know,
Yeah,
and now that we imported some East Friesians in October.
Yeah.
So they are registered. They are purebred. They are, you know, the some of the first, if not the first for years. And
Yes. Yeah.
so we've had 2 lambs so far out of a couple of ewe lambs. So they're, you know, I think they were just born in March. So they're just turning a year. So they've had their first babies at not even a year. And they have been great moms. They have really
Good.
nice udders and really nice bags. So I'm really excited. And it'd be really cool just to take one of them too and be like, oh, look at this, you know, this is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, yes, like you said, it's been a long time since anyone has imported. Like, I know there's been a few rams imported for some commercial dairies, but you know, not that you're at a small scale level at all from the sounds of your operation, but you know, for somebody who's running, you know, a smaller dairy sheep flock, like that's very exciting. I'm very
Right.
excited for you that you were successful in getting them imported.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was a good time. We took all the kids up there and made it a family deal, and yeah, hurried home once we got them. So, and they've done really well. I mean, they transitioned well.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot that goes into transitioning since we've done a lot of buying from Oregon and Canada. So we're prepared, but it's just, you know, they got to get used to your environment, your water. You know, you don't think about that until you're like, wow, you know, there's a lot. The environment, other animals, the water, the hay is all different. The feed's all different. People are different, you know. I've
The routine is different.
Yeah, I've had people come and milk for me while we were gone, and those ewes would not let their milk down and did not want to get on that stand because they're like, I don't know you. Yeah, so, yeah, they're, you know, even when my husband comes out and the ewes are like, we don't really like you.
Like, we see you around, but
Yeah.
you're not our person.
Yeah, they definitely have favorites, so, you know, that's a lot of stress on a young animal, you know. So I have to say I'm really pleased with how they've done. Really excited to see how the rest of them do, and you know, the babies now, boy, their ears are huge.
Are they?
Oh yeah, they you know, they look similar to like some of the ones I've got, you know, the American ones like I said we had before, but man, they got really big eyeballs and really big ears in their babies. So there is a difference in look to them, and their wool looks a little bit different too. But
Okay. How does their wool feel? Like, is it fairly coarse still. I have a ewe that's also from Deb, and she actually has really nice wool. Like when people come and want to get some yarn from me, they always, her name's Stella. They always go for Stella. Always.
No, it's really long. It's not coarse.
Okay.
It reminds me not quite like a Finn's. It's more lustery feel.
Okay.
It's a yeah. I'm not real good with wool.
I know enough to
know,
be dangerous, and that's about it.
I, I, yeah. Everybody talks about the ramblets and stuff, but yeah, I keep finding myself in love with the animals that have terrible wool quality, like the Dorsets. Just get it. We have a couple Finns and people like theirs for the spinning and they're black, so it's pretty. But I just someday when my kids aren't little, maybe I'll find time, but to do something with it or try to learn how to spin it. I don't know.
Yeah. So on that note, what you have a large sheep operation. What do you do with your flax wool? Is it just
Right
in
now,
bags or
yep,
stored?
right now
Or
2 years are just stored in a Quonset across our road, and
okay.
2 years worth. I did have a gal call me. They're starting to do wool pelleting east of us, and she asked if I haven't called her back, but yeah, she asked if I'm assuming that's what she wanted it for. There's a place over, I think they got a wool pelleter and they're starting to do it, so
Okay.
that might be an outlet. Usually, if I do take it anywhere, I'll take it to. There's a place in Bellefouche that's, now I'm lacking for their name, what it's called, but they have a really big mill there, and
Okay.
then they can sell it for you. And I finally sold some of my 3-4 years ago stuff,
Okay.
and it didn't. I mean, I think 15,000 pounds worth brought $900. So it's like, yeah, that was worth it. But it's not stacked in a Quonset anymore.
Right. Right.
It's really sad to think that a natural, what is it, whatever the natural
A natural
product of
fiber.
them is just going to waste like that. And people can't find anything better to do with it or utilize it somehow. All our synthetics that we use is just taking over everything.
It is, and I know people complain like, "Oh, it's so expensive." I'm like, but it lasts if you take care of it, like it'll last forever and for generations, depending on what it is.
Right.
So
And it's warm.
it's warm, and then so I only have one small child, so I do have time to knit occasionally, like different parts of the year, not year round. And I have knitted like some t-shirt type sweaters, and they actually are like pretty lightweight. I will wear them in the summertime. I'm really hot-blooded, so I struggle even with a long sleeve sweater in the dead of winter. I tend to get too hot in them. So I have been surprised that I've been able to wear like the lighter weight short sleeves in the summertime and not feel like I'm sweltering to death.
Someday I'll venture back into that.
Yeah. Well, you're busy right now.
Yeah, I still like to just keep doing my milking thing and trying to add on to that.
So what do you do with your milk?
I sell it to a few people, and then we just drink what we have and
Okay.
make things. I haven't made too much. I tried cheese once, and it took a long time. I got flustered and too many kids and too much going on, so that didn't turn out as well. Yeah, so and I've made ice cream a few times. Turns out really good. I just need to get a really good yogurt recipe and make that. And if cottage cheese wasn't so hard, a couple people told me it's really hard to make, but I'd really like to make that too.
Yeah, I've not dabbled in cottage cheese, so I can neither confirm nor deny how challenging it is.
It doesn't look like it'd be that hard.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, in my mind, I would think like you would kind of go through like making the cheese. I don't know what culture you would need, but like you would cut it and then like you could, after you got the whey out of it, you could just mix like cream or milk back in, is my thought.
Yeah.
But I could be totally off base.
I don't know. It just doesn't look that hard. It's all curdly and
Yeah.
creamy anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know about your kids, but my daughter loves cottage cheese.
Yeah, these guys do too. Handy little snack. So yeah, it works well.
Yes. So with your lambs, what do you do with your lambs, both like on with your commercial ewe flock and your dairies?
So a lot of the commercial stuff, if they meet my criteria, so I have a very high criteria of breeding standards.
Mm-hmm.
If they meet that, then I'll keep some, and then I try to sell some ewe lambs. But they only are out of the best ewes. I mean, it's nip and tuck. I mean, they got to be very maternal. They don't, if they don't like their lambs, they don't follow into a jug real well. If they don't milk and can't raise two, they're not selected. And usually I keep most stuff out of like the twins or triplets or, just so some of those will get selected. There's a few ram lambs too, the commercial and the Dorset horn side too. And so then the ones that aren't usually just go for in the feedlot, and then we'll market them when they're like to market them when they're about 80, 70 pounds, somewhere in there. Our closest not feed yard, but sale barn, I guess, that is pretty fairly decent is in Aberdeen, so that's an hour from us. And then there's another larger one that's in Sioux Falls, or it's west. It doesn't matter. It's south of Sioux Falls. It's a really big. They get a lot of people from Montana bring sheep down there.
Okay.
It's a pretty big yard that they do a lot of sheep, and so we'll take some down there, and especially when like now the market's great. So I wish I had a whole bunch of lambs sitting in my lot, but I don't. So yeah, once we wean, we'll put those in the feedlot and then feed them, and then if we have, we've been dabbling in the meat aspect of things, finishing some lambs, and so we've been privately selling lamb meat and or whole lamb to people too. That we have the capability of doing, all grass, or obviously, put them on a grain feed ration too. So we have kind of the capability of doing both. So it's kind of what people want, or preference, or if they say they want one or the other. So that's kind of what we do with those. The dairy side of things, obviously with the new ones, I'm going to keep everything, and I'm going to see how they do.
Yeah.
But like the American ones, I like to keep as many ewe lambs as I can, because they got to be a good mom though. I'm not going to sell or retain something that's not a good mom by any means. And they got to milk, good, because they are dairy. We don't want just a quart a time. That's just milking for no reason. So
right.
They gotta be a good mom and gotta be a good milker. So I do sell some of them. That's it. And I have just, with the East Friesians that we brought in, I have not a waiting list, but people have asked to be put on it. So eventually when I get my poop in a group here, I'm gonna, make a little form online or whatever, so people can get in touch, and then I can have people fill that out. So
yes,
I just don't have the numbers right now to be selling all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's fair. You made a large investment in the ones that you imported last year, and folks have to understand that you're trying to build those numbers. I mean,
right.
I don't fault you at all for saying I don't anticipate having anything for sale in 26.
And I just really want to see how they do too for the first year. It's a big change. It's a big gamble. I mean, realistically, it's a lot of hours, a lot of distance travel. So I just kind of want to see how they do. Yeah. And like you said, if they are some of the first ones, I just want to make sure that, they are what they are and do well. I don't want to sell people bad things either. So I want to make sure that I got good ones that I can say, I know what this mother was like, and her lamb looked good last year, so I'm sure she'll be great this year, or I hope, can't guarantee it. Close enough. At least I have a little information behind it. I don't, that's where records for me are very important, even on the commercial side of things. Every ewe's tagged, everyone's numbered, the lambs are all tagged, we follow them through. Something dies, we know it. I've tried to weigh a lot of things this year too, just to kind of see where they were and see if weight has anything to do with lambing size or how they grow and finish out in a year too. But well, I have a few for sale for them actually. I think I'm almost sold out of ewe lambs for the American dairy sheep too. So I've got a couple little buck lambs, high percentage ones, but other than that, yeah, that's kind of what I usually do, I guess. And the other ones that if they are bottle fed or whatever, we just kind of keep the pets, and then the bottle lambs get put in the feedlot with the rest.
Okay. So when you're milking, do you lamb share, or do you let the dam raise them to a certain age and then you just wean them, or do you bottle feed them right from the get-go? What is your guys' process?
So when I first started, I only had like a couple. So I would milk share for a while, and then about a month, and I'd just wean the lambs and bottle feed a couple times, once a day or whatever. And then I got them really friendly too. So then I'd have the milk that I needed. And now that we got a few, so I just lamb share with those now.
Okay.
And, if I need excess, there's a few ewes that milk like a gallon a day. And man, if you don't watch her bag, you got to make sure the lambs are drinking during the day or hoofta. But anyways, yeah, that we just milk share with those, and then I let them raise them to about 3 months, and then I'll pull them off. And then if I know people want lambs and they want them friendly, then I can start working them on the side too. I train them as they're growing to get on the stand, and kind of let them see where their mom's going up on the stand, they're getting grain, so then they get used to the whole stanchion type deal too. I like my lambs to be friendly, so I like that little human interaction type deal. So sometimes that's where the bottle feeding's kind of nice at the end there, even if it's just once a day for like a week, then they still think you're great because you fed them.
Yes, they look for that bottle even sometimes when they're an adult, I feel like.
And I have a few Dorset ewes and some other ones that are really friendly, but man, anything with like some dairy in them, they are so friendly. They're like always, if they could smile, they'd be like, hello, smile, nice to see you, we're excited to see you. That's what I always picture them as. But yeah, my dairy ewes are very friendly.
Yes, yes. Mine are like obnoxiously friendly. I have some ewes that have lambed that were not mine. I'm kind of being a foster shepherd right now for them, which is fine. But the one had lost her lambs before she came up here, so I'm having to milk her because the rest of my flock is not due to lamb until like mid to end of April, and they are just like dying. So they're getting grained still, but they are like dying because Sweet Pea is on the milk stand getting, like all this grain all to herself. She's not having to fight with anyone about it. And the other night, I just wasn't paying attention. Chores were all done, and I was walking out of the barn, and Stella, my favorite ewe, she squeezed out behind me, and Zach was in there. He was like, oh, I'm like, it's fine. She's literally going to go up on the milk stand, and she did. She ran around to the ramp right up there, and I just grabbed her collar and said, you still got another 6 weeks of cooking, sister.
Yep.
Walked her back down and put her back in, but yeah, they're just like, they want to be on that milk stand so bad.
Hey guys, I just wanted to interrupt quick to give a shout out to our sponsor, the North America Dairy Sheep Association. NADSA is open to any sheep breed or crossed used for milking purposes. NADSA supports dairy shepherds and is elevating dairy standards in sheep in America. NADSA now offers a Milk Star program, has sanctioned dairy sheep shows, and is now offering a breed up program. You can become a member or get more information by going to the website www.northamericadairysheep.org, or you can email the association at northamericadairysheep@gmail.com. We are so thankful to NADSA for sponsoring this podcast and helping bring more resources to the dairy sheep community. Stay tuned for future podcast episodes where we talk to NADSA board members about what NADSA is trying to accomplish in America for the dairy sheep community.
I have one ewe, and even in the summertime, she knows our barn is like a hoop barn, and then it's to an old hip roof barn, and then there's like a little door to go through if we shut it off, and like now that we're lambing, we always shut it. But anyways, if she's in that barn and she knows, I gotta just use my paw and push the door open, and she'll push the door open and knows exactly where to go up on the stand, and yeah,
Does she
yeah,
take
not
any friends
paw
with her?
hoof. Yeah, no, usually she's the only one, and she's the only one who's figured out how to use her foot and hoof to open that door. I mean,
Okay.
and she'll sit there and use her hoof, and then she'll push her head, and she'll lean right into it because it's on springs. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
some resistance. Yep,
Okay.
and she's runs right out there. And today I didn't milk her this morning, just because I didn't need all the extra milk. But yeah, she was sitting there pawing at the door. I'm like, nah, sorry, tomorrow. She. What about me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they all have their personalities. They're kind of like little dogs. It's, goats and all the dairy sheep. They're all like, I don't know, pets. They all have
Yes.
their own personalities.
Yes. Do you guys end up naming all of your dairies or not so much?
No, I like the American dairies. We got some of them from a couple different people, so they kind of have names either like where we got them from or like
Mm-hmm.
kind of resemble the people we got them from. I don't know. It
You have a
seems
lot of
like you,
sheep. It's a
yeah,
lot of names
yeah,
to keep track of.
yeah. And my kids used to be really good at naming stuff, and they just don't help me with naming. So, but
Okay.
what these new ones, we might have to get special names for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just gotta decide. Like I always wondered, some of my goat friends in the dairy side, they all have, every year has a different letter that they give names to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, should I do that? But you don't want to be like the goat people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've
It's
heard of
something to think
people
about.
doing like themes too. Like one year, like they do flower names. I know someone who did like Disney characters one year,
Mm,
and I'm just like, that's cool, but I also don't think I'm that creative to
yeah,
stick with naming everyone from
right. Well, and then if they do the letter year, then you're on Q. And I mean, how many names start, if they're girls, start with Q?
that. I'd have to
Kind of run
Google.
out after a while.
Maybe you'd have to find names where the Q is silent.
Yeah.
Out of all of your sheep you have, because you do have a wide variety, do you have a particular breed or crossbreed that's your favorite to work with?
I don't know. They all have their place.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, like I said, it's really neat to see, since we've selected so hard for certain traits like maternal and then worm
Mm-hmm.
and just no grain and all that stuff. It's really fun to see some of the really nice ones of the horned Dorsets we have when they have their offspring, just watching them. So yeah, I really like watching those. They're
Okay.
they're really fun. When I was pregnant, and maternal, you got to remember, you got to protect your baby. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was pregnant last year, I had to get in the pen and just make sure that the one was getting up. She had three. Yeah, last year she had three. And one wasn't getting up or whatever. And man, I mean, they got nice horns. They're pretty big. And she was like, no, you're not coming in here. And I mean, it took all I had to keep her away from me. And she was just being a mom, So, but,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have them too maternal and too aggressive than not enough, That's the
Mm-hmm.
worst where you'd have ewes out there and chewing their cud and had a baby laying there. And, I like thinking we had one night I went out. And so let me start over. We have a hoop barn. And so in the wintertime, I lay about 300 ewes in that hoop barn. It's like
Oh
about
wow.
a drop pot. Yeah. So
Okay.
everybody is shuffled in there. And
Okay.
so we start I think that year we started end of February or whatever. So it
Okay.
gets pretty cold sometimes, but it usually stays about 30 degrees, give or
Okay.
take.
Mm-hmm.
So it stays pretty good. But I went out and we had just started, we were a couple weeks into it, but I went out and I kid you not, there was 26 to 30 lambs everywhere. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, who goes with who? And I don't know if we had too many registered ones, but everybody had a full belly. Everybody was up moving,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody cared if they were their lamb or not their lamb. Everybody was loving lambs, and nobody, everybody that had a lamb loved a lamb, no matter if they had
Okay.
three or four in a corner or if it was one. I mean, but to me, that's a good maternal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
everybody's taking care of them. Everybody was
Yeah.
fed, and I didn't have to worry about it. It's just, so who goes to who now? I think there was 8 ewes or something like that had lambed out there, so it was a lot of
Okay.
lambs per ewe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's it. That's a good way to look at it. I mean, and the Finn Dorset have a lot of lambs. The Horn Dorset have a lot of lambs. I've had triplets out of them. This year,
Okay.
most of the fin Dorsets are the ones, and even 3/4 horn Dorset ones had a couple quads too. So, I mean, yeah. I like my dairies because of their personality and the ability to be friendly with them. But on the
Mm-hmm.
standpoint of creating lambs and selling and marketing them, that's, the fin Dorset and the Dorset have been really good for us. I don't know if that answers your question or if I got
Yeah.
sidetracked again.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
started
like
talking
you
about
said,
something.
like you almost have like three different flocks of sheep on your
Hmm.
ranch, so you have like three different projects that you have going on now.
You're right.
So, like, that's fun. Like, I think genetics are really cool, and I like to
Hmm.
follow like production records. So, like, the nerd in me would be like, that sounds like
Yeah,
a fun time.
you're right. And I forgot we have some registered Ile de France too. So there's only a few of
Okay.
them. So we got
Okay.
some of them too. I'm trying to think if I missed any other ones. We got, yeah, a lot of stuff. But yeah, those two are still probably my top favorite ones for raising lambs though. I mean,
Okay.
they've done really well. And yeah, following genetic lines is really interesting, like, going back of line breeding or who throws what and where does that
Mm-hmm.
come from or whatever. You have ewes consistently have triplets or breed back every year, and it's fun to watch. And that's why I say I love records, so I can go back
Yeah.
last year and be like, wow, she did phenomenal. I looked because a guy wanted some ram lambs and he didn't care if they're commercial or not, so I have a fin Dorset ewe, and I looked back for 3 years on her records, and for 3 years in a row she had triplets.
Oh,
And two
wow.
years of those 3 years, they were all buck lambs, all three.
Okay.
So I don't know. A few people have said that that's rare. Like the more you have of a, say, buck, then those are a ram, however you want to say it. But if they're all three the same sex, that's a
Mm-hmm.
higher fertility trait. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they've
Okay.
said they've read, and I haven't specifically looked into it. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of interesting if you kind of go. I mean, how many times do you have ewe lambs? All, three ewe lambs. I did have one of those American dairy sheep. She had four ewe lambs. She had quads.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
that's like winning the
And
trifecta.
she wasn't grained either. I mean, I wasn't expecting
Okay.
her to have four. And all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden, and I'm like, oh, well. And they were really consistent too. So, but yeah,
Okay.
they're all ewes.
So, and with your sheep, whether it's the commercial ewes or the dairies, when they have triplets or quads, are they successful in raising them on their own, or do you guys
Yeah.
help with bottle feeding too?
So some ewes, they are very good at raising them. I've got 5 or 6 ewes that are still raising them triplets without
Okay.
grain. The horn Dorset, one of them that is like our matriarch, like we wish we had 100, 200, 400 of her.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who raised her quads. She had triplets. She raised her triplets without any grain, and they
Okay.
did phenomenal too. She just, I mean, she can hold body condition. She's just great. Like I
Okay.
said, if we could have 400 of her, we would. But yeah, so there's, a handful of ewes that can, and then I just, I feel like sometimes it takes a lot on their bag too. That's a lot of, even on the dairy side of thing, you kind of watch them little buggers. They really hit sometimes trying to get that milk out,
Yes.
and that's a lot of
Yes.
mammary abuse. So
Yes.
I don't want to ruin my used bags and udders. So I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of watch how they're doing, and if I feel like they're not getting enough and doing too much damage, we just pull one off. But like I said,
Okay.
there's about 6 ewes that are still have their triplets on and doing
Okay.
good. So just kind of watch,
Okay. That makes
kind of
sense.
married to the life.
So do you guys, or have you ever done any like embryo transfers or LAI or anything like that?
So not my stepbrother, my husband's stepbrother is a veterinarian, and so we went
Okay.
down to Texas and took that embryo class.
Mm-hmm.
That what's his name down there does for the sheep deal, and we did cattle too, but I was more interested in the sheep aspect of it. But so that's one of the next upcoming things we'd like to do. We'd like to try to do some of that stuff. Like I
Uh-huh.
said, we have a few ewes here that we really really like, so that's
That's
get
why
some
I asked.
embryos out. Yeah. We just, yeah, a lot of planning and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
set up, because you have to have a nice clean spot, and then there's people that do it,
Yeah.
or you can take them there, but you don't want, I want the facility made sure it's clean, they didn't have a whole bunch of sheep in
Yeah.
beforehand, or We have to have an area set up here that's pretty sterile or really clean. That's Yeah, eventually we'll get there, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and later on, if the dairy stuff, our East Friesians, if we feel like we need some, different blood or something, which I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, semen would be a good idea too.
Yeah.
Even with these horn dorsets, it's always a risk bringing something in. So, but I was told semen can, if it's not tested beforehand and if the ram was not OPP tested, there is a chance you can get it through the semen. Embryos are sterile. So I don't know why we can't use more of that stuff instead. But I got into a conversation with a sheep guy about that one time where he's like, I just don't understand what's wrong with these people. Don't they realize there's no disease can be on a sterile thing and embryos are sterile. So why the imports and export thing, he was just going on. When it was closed for so long, he's like, I just don't understand why it's closed. Which makes sense, why can't you bring sterile objects in? They're not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other discussion, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say that gets into politics, I'm sure, and
politics and
way above my
biology
favorite.
that I'm not all qualified about, but it's
Yeah.
still interesting. But yeah, someday we'd like to try to dabble in that, maybe the AI stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I just dabbled in it last fall. And those ewes are the first ones due to lamb in mid to end April. But the veterinarian I worked with, he's really chomping at the bit. He does IVF with other folks that do like club lambs and stuff like that. And he would really like to, he's like, it would make your breed up process so much faster. And I'm like, I hear what you're saying, but it also costs money.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just not there yet.
So what was your conception rate on the AI?
So for my AI, 5 out of 6 took. So I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Especially since when he first warmed up a straw at a time, I used 2 different rams. Before we started, he asked, he's like, now if, the motility is really high, like, do you want to, like, we can split straws so we can make straws go further. And I said, okay, let's see what motility is like, because I also don't want to shoot myself in the foot either. And he's like, okay. And motility was like between 20 and 30%, like when he first thawed it. And he had said, he's like, it could be dependent, like what kind of extender they used. They could be, slow to basically wake up. And because I wasn't the first one to use those straws, and her vet had said something similar, and she had, I think, 3 out of 5 of hers took. I was feeling pretty optimistic, but I told him, I was like, I don't want to split straws. Like, we're going to use a whole straw per ewe. And I think with the conception rate that I ended up with, the semen clearly started getting a lot more active and doing its job when it was fully warmed up in the uterus. So I'm anxiously awaiting to see what hits the ground.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yes. So it's probably be some of the most expensive sheep that I have here on the farm.
I hear you. You guard them with your life.
Yes. So, and I come from the horse repro world where there's a lot of high dollar horses that I've had a hand in helping come into this world and raising, and I'm like, it's going to be the same thing with the sheep now. So, but it'll be fun. It'll be worth it.
Right.
What is something that you would consider like one of the biggest highlights of your shepherding career thus far?
Getting them, the importing from Canada has been some of the biggest stuff. I mean, even the horn, when they opened that, I think that was the first year we brought those horn dorsets in. So that was a really big one. And then like this going up to Canada that was a very long trip and very expensive sheep and some of the first ones back in here. So, I mean, how can that not be a highlight?
Right. Well, and like, when did it sink in for you? Like, we did it. Like, we achieved.
So I got to tell you what happened though.
Okay.
All this work and all the money and how much time, of course the APHIS does not and will not respond to you by phone calls anymore. I mean, you can't call them.
Okay.
They won't respond. And so everything's done by email.
Mm-hmm.
So you can about imagine the hours I put in of back and forth because it
Mm-hmm.
has to have this, you have to have this, and blah, blah.
Yeah.
So when we finally got to the point of I had to tell Wildrift that, yes, we're going to be up there. This is when, and so far I, got everything about ready. We should be, we're planning up on this weekend or this week, and we'll leave Friday, so we left Friday.
Okay.
And we stayed in Wisconsin Dells with the kids for a weekend because we figured I'll get the rest of the paperwork because they told me Friday, yes, you will have your import permit by Monday, no later than Monday. And I'm like, great, if not Friday. So I'm like, okay, so we're safe to leave. So we tucked everybody in and had people watch our critters here and left. And so Wisconsin is what? I don't know. It's quite the distance. So we stayed there and we left Monday morning. I got in my vehicle Monday morning. Of course, I'm driving and get to the gas station getting ready to leave. And I just Google or go through my email and I'm like, oh, yes, here it is. I click on it and it's like, we are sorry, we cannot issue this permit. And I'm like, a lot
What?
of bad words came out of my mouth. And my
Yeah.
kids are like, uh-oh, mom's not happy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I had to pull over. And so yeah, they just said we couldn't issue this permit. And so I was so mad, and you can't call anybody.
Right. And
And
did
so
they
I'm
give
like,
a
what am I
reason
going to
why?
do? Yeah, well, no. So I finally emailed them back and said, I don't understand. Everybody told me, your office specifically told me this. And so we took off, and they emailed me back saying, well, you shouldn't have took off because you didn't have the permit. I'm like, really? Anyways, beside the point. And so she's like, all we're missing is RFID tags. Which I gave them to the port vet, and mind you, the port vet stuff is not the same as the USDA vet. Everything's completely different.
Yep.
Everything's a
They
completely
don't
different
talk to each
template.
other.
No, they do, but they don't. It's different templates. Everything's different. You
Yeah.
got to have different paperwork for there and different paperwork for here, and it's all on a different website. It's all on a different web design. It's not the same, which
Yep.
I don't understand. But anyway, so all I had to do is and then she finally called me because I was about beside myself.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so she finally walked me through some of this stuff and we got it figured out. But it was just like,
Okay.
oh, we could have done this a lot easier. I mean, and she's
Yeah.
like, I apologize. I was out of the office and people that were in the office gave you the wrong information and didn't tell you what y'all needed.
Okay.
But, well, I mean, it was just, I was hot there for a while.
Well, yes, like you said, like you had a lot of time invested, a lot of money invested.
Yes.
You
Yes.
weren't even at home anymore, like
Well,
you were
and
on your way.
Axel and Chris, well, Chris was leaving to go overseas for some stuff, and she's like, I got to be out of here by a certain. So this was like our time, like the only
Hmm.
time we had available. And I'm like, I don't know what we're gonna do, So
Right.
I was a little frustrated, but yeah, we finally got it, and thankfully. But yeah, it's a bugger of a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. So I didn't handle the paperwork. I was like the cheerleader for my
Right.
friend who did the paperwork. And I'm so glad she did it because she's a stay-at-home mom, but she helps with like bookkeeping with her husband's business. But like you said, like a lot of back and forth emailing. She just spent a lot of time doing it, and there was just no way that I would have been able to have done it because you need to do it during business hours.
Mm-hmm.
They're not working beyond, that 8 to 5 realm. And so
Right.
that makes it really challenging. And you go down, we went down a lot of bunny trails before we finally got on the right bunny trail, just because there's not even like a list of like, here's all the things that you need to do, and here are the links to the website, and these are
Mm-hmm.
fees that you can anticipate to pay. Like if somebody would do that, it would make everybody's life so much easier.
I know. It's like they like to keep you guessing, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was the place where we picked the semen up from. They told us like they have one person specifically that their full-time job is to just monitor the different countries like as they change their rules for importing semen or live animals. Like they have one person that is their full-time job year round.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's crazy to me. Like crazy.
Right. Yeah. The list of imports and exports and what is required to go in and out is nuts.
Yes.
It's nuts. So, yeah. Yeah, which is good. I mean, we can't complain because we don't want screwworm up here either,
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm glad it's done and over. It finally hit me when we were there, because we did stay for a couple days and visit and
Okay.
with them guys and yeah, and then when we got them home, like, wow, we got them here. So now what?
Yeah.
Just keep them healthy and happy and yeah. It's always
Absolutely.
nerve-wracking a long trip like that too, shipping fever and everything else. So.
What is I like to ask all of our guests, what is a message, like a take-home message that you feel like you would like to share with other shepherds, whether they're new or thinking about getting into the shepherding world? What's a take-home message that you would like to offer them?
Oh man, the biggest, it's more of advice, if you will, but one of the biggest things, like I said, we went down that hole of getting sheep and getting into it in a hurry and found disease. So if you're looking at it and you're serious about starting something and you're wanting to get into sheep, I would make sure they come from tested flock and make sure they do test regularly. Just because they say they're tested doesn't mean they are. So buy from clean, buy from tested, and ask for the results, and make sure you buy from people that do similar as your operation. We ran into that too, where we bought from people that feed a lot more concentrate and then come here. It doesn't jive.
Right.
They can't live as well. So buy similar, buy similar and buy clean.
Yes.
I don't know. Those are maternal, similar, and clean. It's a good way to start your flock. Good moms, clean moms. You don't want, people say you don't want your kids sick, so why would you want your animals sick? You don't want your pets sick either. So
and it'll just save yourself a lot of heartache.
But yeah,
mentally and that physical or financial heartache of having to pay vet bills and because you're not sure what's going on and stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't think people understand that animal loss is a reality. It's going to happen. And so, having disease-ridden animals just makes it a tenfold worse.
Yeah. It makes it real easy to want to throw your sucker in the dirt and say, I'm done, and leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's helped us the biggest is making sure stuff was clean. We've seen a huge improvement in flock health, animal health, and they're, I don't know, all over just sheep health, if that's a thing, just they run and play and they're just healthier.
Yeah, let sheep be sheep.
Yeah, right. I guess if that's a take-home message, that would be it.
Yeah, I think that's a great take-home message, in all honesty. It's great advice for somebody who's looking to, take the plunge into the sheep world, or if they have and they're like, maybe this is explaining some of my problems.
Yes. Yeah, and those diseases got so many different avenues. I never thought arthritis was this OPB symptom until we had it. So
yeah.
Yeah. And how many people go out and want their dogs tested for hip dysplasia and all that stuff? You wouldn't buy sickly pets. Why would you want to buy sickly sheep?
Right. Yeah.
To put it in a comparison or
no, it is, honestly. And sometimes, people will sometimes balk at the price of an animal if it's been tested for diseases or whatever, dogs, genetic problems. Well, if you're buying from tested animals, that to me it's worth paying more to be like, okay, like I'm purchasing from a clean flock. I shouldn't be, because my flock is clean. I want to keep it clean. I don't want to bring somebody in and then have problems and have to depop my entire farm. Like that would just, I would cry. 100% would cry over that.
Oh yeah, trust me. I went through many tears.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So.
yeah. It gets
Well,
better.
thank you so much for coming on to the
thanks for
podcast.
having me.
I know you are a very busy woman, a very busy mom, and we're catching you like kind of like in between your lambing as well. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast, and looking forward to following your journey with the East Friesians that you've imported. Maybe we'll have to have you come back and just give us an update on how that's going and kind of what you're seeing with all your free time, right?
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah. I can squeeze you in.
All right. I appreciate that.
You bet. Well, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woolly Way podcast.
We hope you enjoyed our episode and have gleaned at least one tip you can implement in your flock right away. If you like what you heard, please hit the subscribe button, and if you wouldn't mind, leave us a review. This helps others find our podcast so that they can enjoy learning about dairy sheep along with you. The Woolly Way podcast is a production of Whoopsie Daisy Farm in Crafty Fox Acres. For updates and information about our show, follow us on Facebook or Instagram.
Subscribe to our YouTube and email list and look us up at whoopsiedaisyfarm.com to find both. Have a particular guest you'd like us to host or a topic you'd like us to cover? Fill out our contact form on our website or shoot us an email at whoopsiedaisyfarm@gmail.com.
See you next time.